All right, well, looks like we're ready to get started. I'm super excited for our event tonight. My name's Christina Hughes. I work for UNO Office of Sustainability. And this month we have partnered with Conservation Nebraska to put on a ton of events throughout the month of October, which is actually Campus Sustainability Month. So thank you so much for tuning in. This event, I'm so excited to be joined with Lauren and Kelly to help us go through some sustainable food habits and really looking at how we can increase our sustainability through what we eat and how we eat it and how we process it. So first of all, I want to introduce Lauren Neal. She is the chef at Prepped by Lauren. She attended the Art Institute of Colorado for Culinary Art and is currently studying to complete her Human Services degree at MCC. Lauren loves all things food and education and is always looking for ways to combine the two. After realizing how helpful meal prepping was on her family's budget and their overall health, she decided to help others on their journey to health through food. She loves to create new recipes focused on wellness and the health benefits of unconventional foods. She started bringing those new discoveries to Lincoln and Omaha when she started Prepped by Lauren, which is a meal prep and catering business she started in June of 2020. Each week, Prepped by Lauren offers a rotating menu with plant-based and keto meals, as well as custom charcuterie boards. Please correct me if I said that word wrong. That word always trips me up. And catering for events. Yeah, how do you say that word, Lauren?
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie. Thank you. Now it is in there and I won't forget it. Thank you so much for being with us, Lauren. I so appreciate it. We are also joined by Kelly Lemke, who is a student at UNO. She's studying communications and Spanish. She also works for the UNO Office of Sustainability as our communications manager. And she handles all of our social media for both the office as well as our student organization, Sustain UNO. Kelly is also the owner of an eco-friendly vegan brand, Real Simple Care, which is a line of sustainable personal care items. So both of these ladies are on their journeys of eating sustainably and are here to share with us. And I'm so excited. Thank you so much for both being here.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm super excited too. So I guess the first thing we should probably talk about when we're talking about eating sustainably is what we put our food in once we get it. So I like to buy a lot of things in bulk and then save it in glass if I can. Like I honestly got this giant glass jar at Dollar Tree. I go to Dollar Tree and I'll get a bunch of really whatever I can find something to put in it. I have my pantry here is full of jars of quinoa, flaxseed, farro, barley, all kind of, all like dry ingredients. I put those kinds of things in glass like this. And then a lot of things like that come in like bags of things like that. Like, for example, let's see. This is a bag of cashews I have not bought a jar for yet. Things like this, I'll get jars for them and then I'll cut these up and put them, right now I'm just putting them in like recycling or trash, but I'm hoping to get, I just recently heard about a thing called bottle bricking. So I'm researching on that and I'm really interested to get into that to cut down on trash, like build up just in my house as well. So as far as pantry storage, yeah, I do a lot of glass jars, things like that. I also have some, a lot of places like Target and Sam's Club will sell like BPA-free plastic containers, like stackable containers and things like that are good for like flour, brown sugar, things that you need that airtight seal on.
Yeah.
I have an example of this nearby. I do. So I have 2 sets of these that come in different sizes. I don't remember what brands are, but I know I got them from Target.
I think OXO carries them.
Sorry?
I think OXO. I think they carry all of those.
Oh, probably, yeah. So it has like an airtight seal on it. I really like these, and they are BPA free. I believe that they do make like ones that come from recycled materials as well. So let's see, let's go on to buying in bulk. So I buy a lot of like my quinoa and my grains and things in bulk. And then like my flours that are not flour, like my oat flour and things like that, I usually make myself actually. So I buy oats in bulk and then make my own oat flour just by posting it in the food processor. Super, super easy. It's way cheaper than going and buying oat flour itself.
What food processor do you have, Lauren?
I have just a regular oyster. I have an oyster from Target. I really, really like it. I don't remember how many ounces it is, but it's pretty big, and it has like a dough attachment, so I can make I make doughs in it sometimes. I also have a mixer, but the food processor is smaller, so if I don't want to get out the big standing mixer, I'll get out the food processor and use the dough attachment on that. It has a shredder attachment. Food processors are from the gods, I'm telling you. If you can splurge on one, that's one of the kitchen appliances that I really think everyone should have.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like especially when you do things in bulk, if you want to make your own nut milks, if you want to do like food processing, like you said, to make flours, and I just have a standard blender at home, and I'm really thinking like it's time to invest. We also have a question in the chat. For both of you, what are some of your favorite bulk stores that are nearby if you want to buy in bulk?
For like prepackaged things, Sam's Club is really good. Also Costco, of course, but a lot of the big warehouse stores don't carry the whole foods that I really like to use. They have produce, obviously, but sometimes I don't need that big of an amount. So for a lot of bulk things, I used to go to Fresh Time, RIP. That was really my go-to. Natural grocers I like a lot. They have a lot of teas and herbs and spices, and like lentils and chickpeas and those kind of stuff. Beans, they have a lot of that kind of stuff in bulk that I really like. And also Whole Foods. They're a little more on the pricier side sometimes, but the product is usually worth it, in my opinion. They have really nice selection of grains, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Whole Foods definitely can be more expensive, but I think in the bulk aisle, they just have some specialty things that are kind of worth it as well. But I am a single person, cooking just for myself.
Right.
So the only place that I like really get real bulk stuff from is Exist Green. That's where I get all of my spices from, because you can get them package free. You can bring your own containers, and I have a ton of little like 1 ounce containers that I could take and get all of that stuff, which is really nice. And it's really, really cheap. Like I set up my entire spice cabinet for under $20, which is, it was really nice. Cause also like, since I'm a one person cooking for myself, I don't need the huge ones they give you at the store, Yeah.
Especially now that I'm cooking a lot more, I'm using a lot more quantity of stuff a lot faster. So it's nice for me now to be able to go to Whole Foods and stuff. But yeah, when I was cooking for my family, I honestly shopped at a lot of just regular grocery stores, Walmart, Aldi. Aldi is great. They have a lot of really great produce. They're really starting to get a lot more like spices and like cultural things in there, which is really nice. Now that they're starting to expand a little more. So Aldi is another really, really good one that I like a lot. And they have a lot of organic produce that is not terribly expensive.
Yeah, they're starting to bring more of that organic stuff in there, which is really, really nice. But yeah, Aldi is so affordable. I will love Aldi till I die, because they have like they have so much affordable stuff that it's kind of like after going in there, it's really hard for me to be like, or for me to think that like healthy food isn't, like they're making healthy food more accessible in my opinion, just because it's so affordable and it is good quality for real.
Perfect. So we have one, can we answer one more question?
Sure.
Perfect. Do either of you have like a DIY nut or oat milk recipe that is like your go-to or that you've done before or is successful that you could share?
I've only made almond milk one other time before, to be honest, and it was cool, but I honestly just Googled it. It turned out well. I think that I probably should have strained it more times. I think I strained it like 3 times. I probably should have strained a couple more just for good measure, because the pulp can get kind of, just make sure you strain it very, very well. But basically all I did was I Googled the water to nut ratio. I don't remember exactly what it was, to be honest. Blended that up, and then you sit it and let it do its thing and then strain it. And then I think I added like vanilla and cinnamon to mine because I didn't want just almond.
Yeah. I think maybe for the straining, if you did a sieve and then put the cheesecloth over it and then poured it in, because then it's a double barrier, that might be good too, rather than just doing one or the other.
Yeah, and I didn't have cheesecloth at the time, and I probably should have. You're right.
Cheesecloth is amazing. It gets all the fibers out. That's what I use to juice, and it is really, really helpful.
Perfect. Well, yeah, that was the questions that we have so far. So feel free to keep going.
All right. So let's, okay. So as far as my refrigerations and freezer storage, so I like to bring all of the things that I need to use ASAP to the front of my refrigerator. And the way that I do that is by using these. I have these bins. They're drawers that I got from Amazon, and I separate all of my things. So this is all like cut up produce. This is the produce I'll be using for today. And then I have 5 other shelves and an egg one as well. So I bring, when I'm going through, oh God, it's freaking out. I'm so sorry, guys. When I'm going through my grocery list and deciding what I need for the day, I go through my pantry and I say, okay, so I have, you know, a lot of quinoa. What can I do with quinoa this week? I have, what do you want me to do? Just put her back in her crate. I think she has. Sorry, guys.
And sometimes the struggle of working from home, you know?
Yeah.
Dogs, kids.
Oh man, yeah. So I'll go through, you know, my pantry and see what do I have a bunch of, and I'll kind of write just a little note. Okay, I have a bunch of this. I probably should get rid of it before I buy, you know, any more stuff to put up here. So for example, my kiddo loves cucumbers. He loves carrots. So I always have deli cups of carrots and cucumbers in the fridge, ready to give him washed and cut and ready to go. And I have different bins with different, I have a bin for all of our milks and creamers and things like that. I have a bin for sauces and condiments. And then I have one for like deli meat and things like that, just to keep everything organized so that when I go back to look and see what I need, I'm not overbuying. And I'm not buying things that are going to go bad and are going to go to waste in my fridge. And that also helps me to save money and budget more properly when I'm trying to, you know, make my dollars stretch for the rest of the month as well.
Yeah, and I think having those things like cut up and ready to go is so key to making sure that the things you're buying are the things that you're eating.
Absolutely. So when I go to the grocery store after I've gone through and I've made my list of what I need and what I've got to get, I go to the grocery store, I come back home, and not every time, because sometimes we're busy and we don't have time, but I try really, really hard as soon as I get home to go through and wash and cut as much produce as I can. Some things that need to be cut, obviously don't wash or cut your broccoli until right before you're ready to use it. If you don't know how to store something properly, ask Siri, ask Alexa, they will tell you. I ask all the time. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget and I buy something that I haven't cooked in a while and I'm like, oh crap, how do I store, green beans? And I'll ask Alexa and she'll tell me, oh, blanch it and stick it in the freezer. And then, I know. So for cucumbers, I cut them fast because my son will he'll eat a whole cucumber for breakfast. Like he goes through cucumbers like crazy. So I will cut cucumbers and then I like to put them in a tub with cold water and just a splash of white vinegar just to keep them crisp. That's just a little trick that I use. You can also put like lemon juice or lime juice or whatever, but I think vinegar doesn't take the cucumber taste out of it, if that makes sense. It doesn't turn it citrusy. So I have a bunch of those, and I cut things as much as I possibly can. And then, okay, so containers in the refrigerator, in meal prep containers, if you can afford to splurge in the moment and save money later on, go for glass. These are circle ones that I have. These are by Pyrex. And I got these from, I actually got these as a wedding gift. But I believe they have them at Target and Walmart and stuff as well. I'm looking at another Pyrex set that's rectangular that I really want to get. Plastic is nice, I guess, for convenience, but it's like, where does it go? Are you taking it back home? If you're not going to take it home and reuse it, and how many times can you reuse it? You know what I mean? Like those things break down and you can't use them for very long and then they end up in the trash, outside, wherever they end up. So if you can splurge on it and you can afford to just go ahead and bite the bullet, get glass. It's better for everyone. It's just, and your food will taste better, to be honest. It stays fresher longer in glass and it will taste better, in my opinion. Let's see. So yeah, I wash and store my produce. I bring it home. I put it in containers like this, deli containers like this, if it's for my kiddos to dip into or whatever. So when I'm deciding, I guess the next thing is when I'm deciding what we're gonna eat, I go through. I see what I've got. I see what I need. What we use a lot of. So I go through my spices. We use a lot of spices because salt and pepper is never enough. It's never enough. So we use a lot of, I love cumin, I love coriander. I use a lot of spices in anything that I'm making. And so I like to go through at least once a week and go through my spices and just see what I'm getting low on. And like I said, Natural Grocers has a lot of really nice spices that you don't see in other places. Whole Foods does as well. And then I think about what we're craving. If say I have a bunch of quinoa and I've been wanting tacos, or I've been wanting chicken nuggets. I've made quinoa crusted chicken nuggets before. Delicious, chef's kiss. And I just figure out what I can do with what I've got and what little things I need to get in between to make that food that I already have here work with me.
Yeah. I believe to add on to that, there is a website, and I'd have to double check to see what it's called. But if you Google, there are websites that you can type in the things that you already have in your kitchen, and it'll spit out recipes for you so that you can make the stuff with what you already have, rather than having to go buy something, and just use what you have at home as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you mention that app for that, Kelly? Oh, sorry. Did you mention what app that was? Because I have it on my phone, if I can find it.
I don't remember what it's called, but I know they exist. Yeah, but there are a ton of apps that help you if you come home from a grocery shopping trip. You can input things that you bought, and then it'll help you generate that as well throughout the week. So you can kind of keep like an inventory almost.
Yeah, so one of those apps is called Supercook. So that's the one that I have on my phone, where you just enter the stuff that you have in your pantry and it builds meals for you. We also have a few questions that came in. Can I ask those? Yeah. Cool. Okay, so first, somebody asked if either of you have a recipe that you can use, and I've not heard of this before, but Mirlinton squash. Mirlinton squash. Please let me know if I pronounce that incorrectly.
I don't know that I've ever even heard of that squash. What's it called?
So I can spell it for you. It's Mirlinton.
Oh, boy.
Oh, a choyet squash.
Okay.
Okay, I thought maybe that was what you were talking about, but I wasn't sure. Girl, bake that with some pork chops and make cinnamon apples. They taste just like apples.
Okay.
So good.
Good. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, another question. Do spices have an expiration date or shelf life?
Yes.
I honestly don't know. Spices never stay in my cabinet long enough to expire.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I would assume, like with any other food, there is an expiration date, but because it's a dry thing, it's probably pretty long. It probably has a pretty long shelf life, just like oats and flour and things like that. I would imagine as long as you keep it in like an airtight container, it should be fine.
Yeah. My personal rule of thumb is like a year-ish, but like I said, I don't keep spices past a year because I run out. So
yeah,
they do.
I'm doing something wrong there. I'm doing something wrong because I have spices that have been up there for way too long, probably. Okay, and then another question: do you infuse oil for cooking and salad dressing?
I do a lot of garlic oils. I love garlic. I've made chili oil before, which is really good for like Asian inspired meals. Sesame oil is already infused, but I love using sesame oil. But yeah, garlic oil is probably one of my favorite infusions to make. And I love making like herbed butters and things like that as well.
So one of our attendees answered the previous question. They said that spices don't expire, as in they'll be bad for you, but they do lose flavor past their expiration date.
Yes, that
Thank
is.
Let's see, where were we going? We were talking about meal planning. Oh yeah, so yeah, like I said, I'll go through my list of what I have, what I need, and then I'll ask my family what do they want, or if I'm meal planning for prepped, I'll go through and say, what have I not made in a while? Or what have people been asking for? Sometimes people will send me messages. And I try to do things that I'll try to make the same things in a week that kind of have similar ingredients. So if I'm making an Asian meal and a Hispanic meal, I'll try to make things that have the same, that both have, all have onions and peppers and garlic, or all have the same things, so that I'm only buying all of the same things, but I'm seasoning them differently. I'm cooking them differently every day. So I don't have such a variety in my kitchen and overwhelm myself. I'm so sorry, you guys. Can I? My dog is like having a moment in the other room.
Oh, of course. No, Kelly and I can keep the conversation going. Yeah, go take care of your baby. So Kelly, what are some of your favorite places for either finding sustainable foods or buying in bulk, or kind of tell us your process too?
One of the best tips that I've ever gotten through watching a lot of YouTube is to shop around, and it sounds like it'll take more time, and I haven't really found a grocery store that's really the one-stop shop for absolutely everything. But if I had to rank them, it'd probably be Aldi, Baker's, and then Whole Foods, and then maybe a Trader Joe's kind of at like the end of it. But like just for example, Whole Foods has, since I'm vegan, it has a lot more of those specialty foods. And Aldi is actually, if anyone's been there recently, they have a lot more vegan options than they did. They have cheese, ice cream. They have a lot of protein that are frozen options in the frozen aisle. But yeah, shop around because you can really save a lot of money that way. And if you plan your route right, my mom always taught me never take a left turn until like the end of your route. Like make it sounds like really like weird, but make a circle and it saves you a lot of time as well. So when I usually go to the Aldi's on 72nd and Dodge. So like, for example, when I'm coming back from campus, I swing in there and then I never take a left. I go back down Dodge and I go home. So that's like saving money or saving time, I guess, and money too, because look at their weekly ads and like I find it super, super helpful when grocery stores have an app so that we can go through, you can see the weekly sales and stuff like that. When the farmer's market was happening, I went to the farmer's market, on Saturday. I prefer the old market one over the Exarban one. And I would get some things from there. And I don't know, I guess my like food prepping style is like, I like to do at least I do an entire breakfast probably on like a Sunday and do like a really easy muffin or something like that. That way I can have that for the rest of the week. But I actually do enjoy cooking, so I'm okay if I have to cook every other day or so. That's actually fun for me. But yeah, I can meal prep, but I do like cooking. So
we have a question directly to you, Kelly, as well. Somebody asks, what steps do you take to ensure that you have minimal food waste? That they, previously had kids in the house and don't anymore. So still in the habit of cooking large meals.
Yeah. So that I have fallen into that a lot. Like I definitely will sometimes at the end of the week or whatever, I'll have food and I'm like, ooh, probably shouldn't eat that anymore. And I did overcook. I think like the most helpful thing for me is to almost fall into like, you kind of have to retrain yourself. So like when I retrained myself to cook vegan, I realized that like the proportions had to go up a little bit. So I guess when you're downsizing from having like a family down to maybe just yourself or another person, I think this is going to sound like really obvious, but just like buy less at the store, if that makes sense. And so like when I come home and when I like, for example, since I'm in school, I know that I'm going home in like a month or a little over a month. So I'm going to try to use up everything I have. And so what I'll do is I'll use like one of those apps that I was talking about and, input everything I have, and then it'll help me out. In terms of like downsizing, I mean, I don't know that I just, as a single person, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer for me, but like, I don't know, just, you can freeze a lot of things.
I freeze meals. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I would make a huge batch of macaroni, which would definitely feed 4 people, I would just pop it in the freezer into individual containers, and then I'd be able to take them with me, or just heat them up at home. So that way I don't have to cook during the day. But yeah, I mean, I admit I do have some food waste that I'm not very proud of sometimes, but I try my best.
Compost.
Yeah,
compost it.
Yeah, I compost a lot of things. I keep a freezer compost in my freezer. I just keep a literal plastic bag, and then I take it to someone and they compost it for me. Yeah, and so that does help. It makes me feel better about it, at least.
So this question is for both of you, and I think is one of my biggest questions when it comes to meal prepping too, is so you make a whole bunch of stuff at the beginning of the week, or you do meal prepping often. Like, how do you make sure you don't get bored?
There's nothing wrong with taking a break. No one says that you have to meal prep every single day of every single week. Okay, so when I was meal prepping for myself and my partner, what I would do was I would decide, okay, we're gonna do chicken this week. So I would get a big thing of chicken breasts or chicken thighs and do them, season them up differently. So I would do one with seasonings like cumin and coriander and red peppers, chipotle, stuff like that, and do just some rice and a vegetable, and do like a couple of different vegetables. So I have chicken with one seasoning and some vegetables and rice, chicken with some kind of sesame seasoning and Asian inspired seasoning and some vegetables and rice. So that way I'm not eating the exact same thing every day, but I only had to cook one thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I only had to go and cook those chicken breasts. I only had to cook that one thing of broccoli, and then I just seasoned it differently or whatever. So just trying to change up your spices and your seasoning so that you're not eating the exact same thing every week can help a lot with that monotonous feeling like you have to meal prep, you have to do, have your food ready to go.
Yeah. So like cooking like the basics, like a rice, a vegetable, a carb, a vegetable, but then assembling it differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make one's a salad, one's a sandwich, one's a lettuce wrap. We just switch up a little bit so that the main protein or the main thing that you're eating stays the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, so this question is also for Kelly. Like, based on your diet, plant-based, vegan, like what's your meal prepping process? Like, is it different than like what we would do for folks who, aren't vegan or aren't plant-based, or is there a different process?
I would say for me, it kind of depends on what I'm making. So like if I were to make a chili, I just eat that all week for dinner. But in terms of, is it different? I wouldn't really say so. I think that for me, like personally, I like to cook every couple days. But in terms of vegan and, versus another diet, I don't really think there's that much of a difference. Like, I don't think it's more work necessarily. I just find that like maybe my portions are a little bit bigger. But other than that, I don't really think there's that much of a difference. Like, it isn't harder. Definitely not harder. If that answers the question.
Yeah. One more question and then, take it away. So the squash that I asked about earlier, when you found the other name for the squash, was there like a website for it or like a place where you could find ways to cook with it?
Oh, no, when I Googled the name that you said and I saw a picture of it and I immediately knew what it was because I just made meal prep with it like a couple of weeks ago. So I just already knew what it was. I don't know of a specific website. A lot of the time I'll just Google, like if there's some, for example, I recently discovered lotus root, which is a root like rutabaga and potatoes and all those kinds of things. It's a root, but a lot of people don't eat it because they don't know what it is. So I found out that lotus root is really, really good for helping with water retention and blood pressure. So I started experimenting with it and I've made lotus root chips. I've put it into stir fry. It's really good. It's kind of in stir fry, it kind of has like a water chestnut kind of texture. It can be really versatile. You can cut it into I'm sure there's probably way more that I haven't done with it yet that I could do. But I like finding things like that and kind of finding new ways to use those to switch it up too. I just Google. And then once I find something, so I found the lotus root and what it was good for and all that kind of stuff. And I started experimenting. I saw a lot of people had done stir fries and things like that. And I didn't use a specific recipe. I just made stir fry how I usually would and tried it. And it happened to be good this time. Google is your friend.
I love Pinterest too. Pinterest is my go-to for
really,
recipes.
really nice as well. I use Pinterest a lot too for ideas.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Let's see. So I know that Kelly was just talking about it also, but so I do a lot of, I don't coupon as much as I used to, like with actual coupons, but I use a lot of apps for coupons, specifically grocery store apps. Baker's actually has quite good coupons sometimes. And they've actually gotten a lot more plant-based things in their stores recently as well. I know they've always kind of had their health food section, but they've got a lot more specifically plant-based food now. I recently, when I was there, actually, I saw a lot of things that specifically had keto on it as well. So they're getting a lot more specific things for people to eat. So yeah, definitely check out. And when those new things come out, there are coupons on the apps. So keep those apps in your phone and ready to go so that you can look up. And I look up when I'm deciding where I'm going grocery shopping. I write my list on a piece of paper or my notes in my phone, and then I go through and I plug in all of those things on the different grocery store apps to see who has it the cheapest, who has a coupon for it when I plan my route. So I know, okay, so yeah, all these got tomatoes for
exact same thing
this week, but what Baker's got a coupon and I can get them for $1.50 this week. So we're gonna switch it up and go to Baker's this week. Yeah. So never stay in the same routine because those grocery stores are definitely not, and they are switching those coupons up on you. So you got to keep up.
That's what I was talking about when I plan my route. When I don't take left turns, I go in a circle and you type in, I will literally sit like the night before and I write my list and I plug it into every app. And like, it's a little tedious, but it will save you money and it will save you time.
In the long run. And I guess I never really thought about the never take a left. That's a really good way to think of it because I do always plan it in a circle, but I never thought of that.
I always like never take a left turn unless you're taking a left turn to go home.
Yeah, I have to keep that one up here. So yeah, so once I get all those grocery store, run to all my, run around in a circle, and I get home and I've prepped all my stuff and I'm ready to meal prep. I like multitasking, so I like cooking multiple things at a time, but you don't have to. Don't do anything that's going to overwhelm yourself. If you are not someone that cooks a lot, make one thing. And like I said, switch it up every week. If you're someone like Kelly or someone like me that likes to cook a lot, meal prep for a day or two. And then, do it again in a couple of days. Like, you don't have to overwhelm yourself with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a process. We're all learning and we're teaching ourselves. So like, be patient with yourself and just do what works for you as far as your planning, your meal prepping, but don't let it stress you out.
Yeah. Lauren, do you kind of have a system where if you have one appliance going, like I use my Instant Pot a lot. So if I have my Instant Pot going and I know that it's coming up to pressure, and then once it gets to pressure, then it starts counting down, I'll start boiling something else on the stove or pop something in the oven and have those things going all at once. So that way, while your oven is preheating, chop your veggies at the same time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So a lot of the time, if I have a grain that I'm using, like if I'm doing a rice or a quinoa or a barley, something like that, I mostly always start that first because it doesn't necessarily take the longest, but it can sit there on the stove once I turn it off and nothing's going to happen to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I can forget about it if I need to. Whereas if I'm sauteing broccoli, I can't really forget about that. I have to be watching it. So all the time I'll start with my grain or, even if it's cauliflower rice or something like that, I'll start that off first. And then if I'm baking something or I'm making a protein, then I'll start the protein. And I usually will cut and prep the vegetables and stuff last. I know that when I was in culinary school, they tell you to mirepoix, do the vegetables first. And I get it. And it's all well, like I have my mirepoix right here. It's ready. I did do it first this time because we're, in front of everyone. I needed to have it ready to go. But for me personally, it just a lot of the time works better for me so that I'm not sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for my water to boil because I like to have something to do.
Yeah.
I never like to just stand and wait in the kitchen. I like to be doing something. So I have kind of a system where I'll start with whatever's on the bottom and then I'll go on to my protein and then my vegetables so that I have something to do while I'm waiting for whatever I'm waiting for at the time.
So this leads in really nicely to a question that just came in. Somebody says like they have a tiny kitchen, which makes cooking and meal prepping like less enjoyable. So do either of you have tips on managing that, a small space?
I actually have a very, very small kitchen. We're not even in my kitchen right now because it's such a small angle. I'm actually in my dining room right now because my kitchen is it's an aisle kitchen. I think that's what they call it. It's just an aisle, just two countertops, and a wall. It's very, very small. So taking advantage of like underspace, like I have, what are they called? Like similar to the refrigerator drawers that I showed you, I have organizers in my cabinets as well. I'm working on getting more of those because they're super, super helpful. Just taking advantage of being able to organize things and have a place for everything is really, really nice. And it helps me when I'm trying to decide what I have more space to get more of as well. I'm still honestly trying to navigate having a small kitchen myself because I went from having a bigger one to this small one. But yeah, just managing your space and organization is very, very helpful.
I would say that even taking advantage of the appliances that you do have. So there's so many meals that could be, you don't have to boil your noodles separately. You can do a one-pot meal instead. So that way you're not creating a huge mess and you have several burners going. That's why I like my Instant Pot so much, because you can saute. I mean, I can make mashed potatoes in it and like not have to do anything else. Like, it's great. So yeah, take advantage of the appliances that you do have. And
absolutely. And like I said, the food processor that I have does a lot of things. So like, I have a standing mixer, but I don't really need to use it. I don't have it up on my counter because I don't need it a lot of the time. And it's a lot easier to take my food processor apart and store it than it is for me to drag my gigantic mixer out of the storage closet in the back. So yeah, finding things that have multiple uses that you can use them for is really, really helpful as well. Really good. Shall we build some salad?
Yay, yes.
Okay.
I'm so hungry.
So the base for our Asian quinoa salad today is quinoa, of course. First thing I want to talk about is how to make the perfect quinoa. Quinoa is a little tricky. It can be, the texture can be off if you do like the slightest thing. Honestly, it can. I'm gonna pull my hot plate up here so that you guys can all see what I'm about to do here. So I have actually already rinsed my quinoa, but the first thing that you want to do when you don't rinse it before you're like, until right before you're about to cook it, obviously. But you're gonna rinse your quinoa off for, I'd say 2 to 3 minutes until all of the bubbles. When you rinse quinoa, you get little bubbles in the top of the sieve here. And once those are kind of starting to go away, that's when you know that you've gotten all the germ off of them. So then I'm just going to turn my quinoa on. Now I have quinoa that's already made, but I'm showing you guys because I want you guys to see how I toast my quinoa to make it. To me, it just tastes better when you toast it. So I've already rinsed this quinoa. This is 1 cup of rinsed quinoa, and I'm actually forgetting something. So I like to put a little bit of avocado oil. You can really use any oil that you like: avocado oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, coconut, anything. Kind of depends on what I'm making as well. Sometimes this is the Asian inspired recipe, and sometimes I would use sesame oil. Today I'm not, because there's already sesame oil in the dressing as well, and so I don't want to overpower sesame. So I'm just gonna put that quinoa in there.
So we did get a question. Is it actually important to rinse the quinoa, lentils, rice? And if so, why?
So yes, yes, to put it simply, yes, it's very important. You always want to rinse any of your dry things you get, just because they sit in a warehouse where there's Lord knows what. And who knows how long that they sit in those warehouses, you know what I mean? So before you put it in your body, you want to rinse off all that stuff. For quinoa specifically, there's something called germ on it. And if you don't rinse it, it will taste bitter. And it doesn't taste good. Trust me, rinse your quinoa. And sometimes you can buy pre-rinsed quinoa from the store. Rinse it anyway. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's rinsed off from that germ, and so it may not taste bitter, but it's still been sitting in a warehouse with germs. So my rule of thumb is always rinse it before you cook it. So I don't know if you can hear this sizzling. My heat is on like a medium lowish. I'm just toasting up this quinoa and this sauce until it's a little toasty and a little brown. You want to move it around pretty often because it can burn pretty quickly because quinoa grains are super, super tiny, and so they can get really, really hot and they can start to burn. So what I have right here that I'm about to put in, so you want 1 cup of quinoa and 2 cups of liquid. So 2 cups of liquid for every 1 cup of quinoa. And I have here, this is just water with a little bit of, you can use chicken broth, you can use whatever broth you like to use. This is that, I put a little bit of that vegan chicken seasoning from Trader Joe's into my water today because I just like the way chicken broth tastes in really anything.
Yeah.
So all you want to do is let that sit, lid off until it comes up to a boil. Once your quinoa comes to a boil, just to like a quick little rolling boil, then you want to put the lid on, turn it down a little bit so it's turned down to a simmer, and then leave that on for 15 to 20 minutes and let it just simmer away until all the liquid's cooked out of that. Now, Kelly, you already cooked your quinoa, right?
Yes, I did. I'm boiling some water because I have to cook my broccoli because I don't like raw broccoli. But I use the fake chicken little bouillon cubes too.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm not gonna actually sit here and boil this and make you guys wait for me to boil this quinoa because Makeshift Food Network, we've got quinoa right here, ready to go. So my quinoa is boiled and cooked. Once you cook that quinoa, guys, you want to go ahead and let that sit in the, let it simmer. Once all that water is evaporated out of it, you want to open it up, fluff it with a fork, take it off the heat, and close it back up. Leave it alone for like 5 minutes, just to let all of that steam soak back into the quinoa, right? So then for a cold or a room temperature dish like an Asian quinoa salad, sometimes I will lay the quinoa out all on like a baking sheet to cool off so that it cools more evenly and it's all cooled off at the same time, ready to go. You can pop it in the fridge or the freezer. I usually just lay it out on the countertop and do it in enough time that it has time to cool at room temperature. So this is my already cooked quinoa. I don't know how well you guys can see that. And then I have all of my products here ready to go. Kelly, are you ready or should we wait a moment?
I cut everything.
Sorry?
I cut and shredded everything that we need.
Perfect. All right, we're on the same page. Okay.
Yep.
So first thing we're gonna, actually, you know what? We're gonna make the dressing first because the dressing is the best part, in my opinion. So I usually do this in a jar, but all of my glass jars are currently occupied with breakfast for my kiddo. So I'm just using a glass bowl, but you can use a jar, a cup, anything that you can put liquid into, you can make this dressing in it, I promise. So like I said, we love seasonings around here. So we are gonna use some spices. First thing we're gonna put in this bowl is some ground ginger, about a teaspoon, maybe 2, however you like it. I like ginger. I like that little kick and that little spice that ginger gives. So I like a lot of ginger, but however much you're comfortable with, I suggest about a teaspoon of ginger. Next thing we're gonna put in here is some maple syrup. Pure if you have it. Regular, like whatever syrup you have is fine. Just keep in mind that this maple syrup is not, it doesn't have a lot of added sugar. So if you're using like a Mrs. Butterworth or something like that, you might want to cut a little less maple sugar just because it can be a little sweet. So I like to eyeball it. We're gonna put about a tablespoon and a half of maple syrup. And then for vegan meals, I like to use coconut aminos. You can also use soy sauce. Some people like to use hoisin. But for this, we are going to use coconut aminos because that is what I have here. So we're going to put about 2.5 tablespoons. I'm going to just open this right on that because we don't waste of coconut aminos. And 2 teaspoons of white vinegar, white distilled vinegar. And we're going to put, sorry, Kelly, am I going too fast? You good?
No, you're good.
Okay. I kind of getting this going. So this is sesame oil. We're going to put a teaspoon of sesame oil. More if you like it sesame-y. And if you don't have or don't like sesame oil, you can put olive oil, avocado oil, any kind of oil that is already liquid. Just, I wouldn't suggest, coconut oil because it's very, very thick and then your dressing won't be a dressing. It'll be a spread. And then I like to put red pepper flakes because I like it spicy. You do not
I'm just sriracha.
Ooh, yum. I love sriracha as well. And then we're going to add the juice of 2 limes. So I already juiced one of my limes here, but I wanted to, everybody doesn't know the trick to getting your limes as juicy as possible. So we're going to roll, let me do this. We're going to roll our lime back and forth.
We're just like chilling.
Yeah, so get those juices flowing, and we're going to cut our lime in half. You can squeeze it by hand. Just make sure you catch those seeds if there are not really any limes, but in lemons, I have a, I'm terrible at squeezing lemons, so I have a thingy. I don't know what this is called. And because I have this now, I'm gonna put these lemon, what is in my compost bin. Thanks, shout out to Kelly for the compost bin. I'm so excited. So this is just a cute little compost bin I can put on my countertop and then go and dump it. Well, not dump it, but I'm going to, I just got a membership at Hillside. So I'm really excited to go and start composting there.
Yeah.
All right, so the juice of 2 limes goes in. And now if you have a jar, you want to put the lid on, shake it, shake it, shake it. If you're in a bowl, whisk it, whisk it, whisk it, whatever works for you. And then always taste it. It's your food, you're eating it. Taste it, see if you need to add something. Do you need to add salt? Do you need to add more sesame? Whatever, you want to make sure that it doesn't matter what the recipe said. If you don't like it, you're not going to eat it next week, later this week when it's ready. So make sure that you like it, make sure it's to your taste. And then, so this is the dressing. We're going to just set that aside for now. This will sit in the fridge. If you put it in a jar or like an air sealed container like this, or even sometimes I will recycle old bottles for like my dressings. I'll make a vinaigrette and recycle an old dressing bottle for that. They'll keep in the fridge. This one will keep in the fridge for a good 2 to 3 months. I wouldn't suggest freezing it because oil will separate. All right, so back to our salad. I've got my quinoa here. I've got some shredded carrot, some cabbage. I chose purple cabbage. You can use whatever kind of leafy thing that you like. I chose cabbage. You can also you can use lettuce, you can use romaine, butter lettuce, whatever you really like that gives that crunch. The nice thing about making a salad is that you can put anything in it, just about. And then I've got carrots. I've got some edamame here. And then I've got cucumber and some green onion. We're just gonna make this into, we're just gonna put these in however you like to. I like to go in with the cabbage first. And then some cucumber. And some carrot. I don't know who that is at my door, but tell them they don't have to wait, please. Tell them I'm in the middle of something. I'm in class right now, hon. And then some green onion. Sorry, that was my neighbor. And edamame. Now you can buy shelled edamame or you can buy it unshelled and snap them yourself. I grew up in Mississippi snapping beans on the porch, so it's nothing to me if the store's out of shelled edamame, but a lot of people don't know that you can just shell them yourself. But yeah, I mean, that's mostly it. If you like herbs, I'm gonna cut up a little bit of cilantro here. I've got some cilantro in a jar here. So I like to keep my herbs in a jar just with some water. I keep these on the counter. This is cilantro. And then I have some parsley and a little bit of thyme over here. I've tried to grow herbs several times. I have not been successful. So I buy them from the store in the bunch and then I cut the end off and throw it in a jar and it works just as well for me. So I'm gonna just pull off a few of these cilantro leaves and cut them up.
There was another question that came in the chat, and while y'all are doing your assembly, do you have any Instapot recipes that are some of your favorites that you can share with folks?
I don't. I want one so bad. I don't. I'm very much a creature of routine. And so I don't like to get new things that I don't know how to use. So I'm kind of scared to get one, but I would like to.
No. They're so good. They're so great. One I know off the top of my head that I made just this past week is my mom's recipe in the Instant Pot of mashed potatoes. So I use russet potatoes, Tofuti brand sour cream and cream cheese. And then just salt and pepper. So you half or quarter the russet potatoes, probably about like 8 of them. And then you put them in the Instant Pot, peel them obviously. And I believe I put mine in for 8 minutes. So it'll come up to pressure and then it'll take 8 minutes after that. And then once you drain them, you mash them and then you add about, I like more sour cream than cream cheese, but like a 1/4 cup of cream cheese and like a 1/4 to a 1/2 cup of sour cream, and then like a tablespoon or 2 of vegan butter. And it's so good. Oh my goodness. That is what I make when it got cold the other week, and that is what I made, and it's so good. Oh, that's my favorite recipe right now in the Instant Pot. And I also make chili in the Instant Pot because it takes like the time that it would take to simmer on the stove. You can literally like dump it all in there. And my recipe for that is a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, chili beans, black beans, and what else is in there? Oh, tomato paste, onions, garlic. And I saute that. So you can saute it in the Instant Pot before you put everything else in. So like half an onion, 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, and then saute it with some oil. And then you can just dump everything else that you want in your chili. And then you can just set it. And then you could slow cook it in an Instant Pot, or you can pressure cook it. But those are some really quick and easy meals to do. Also, Christina, yeah, I thought of whoever asked about downsizing meals for a single person after having a family. I thought of something that I do, not necessarily in that scenario, but what I do, since I like cooking a lot, but not necessarily in mass quantities, is I'll cook a lot of different sides. So that way you feel like you're cooking for more people than you actually are. And then you have more variety in your meals anyway. And you can also mix and match things when you're making, if you're making a meal prep or something like that. I think that is more applicable than what I answered earlier to that person.
Yeah, I don't have an Instant Pot. I would love to get one day. I have heard that soups are a really nice thing to make in them though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you add your dressing, Lauren?
Sorry?
Did you add your dressing?
No, not yet. I was waiting for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready. I have it.
So this is a gigantic bowl. So I just like to drizzle over however much, and then so I'm just going to use this and kind of mix this around. But that dressing just kind of soaks into that quinoa and really flavors it, gives it a lot of good flavor. Thank you.
Yeah. It smells really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah. It's very green, actually.
Oh my gosh.
And I used different vegetables than Lauren did because I had some few things that were going to go bad within the next couple days. So I just sauteed some mushrooms and then boiled some broccoli, and I grew cherry tomatoes this year. So I put some of those in there, and then I also shredded a couple carrots. Yeah.
Oh, I could have I had some cherry tomatoes too. I should have put some of them in there. Yeah. But yeah, so like I was saying before, you can literally put anything in a salad. So don't feel like this one recipe is the way to go. You can make a Southwest quinoa salad with Southwestern flavors, with bell peppers and onions, and saute those up and make like a fajita quinoa salad. You can make all of your favorite foods. You can make it into a salad. I promise. There's a way.
Yeah, I agree. Salads are not as boring as, like, they don't have to be literally just lettuce. That is sad. Don't eat lettuce. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. I have an ongoing joke with my partner about how many salad toppings that I put in a salad. And for me, a salad is not about like the greens base. It's all about the toppings. And so my greens are maybe a fifth of what's actually in my salad, and it's all about the toppings. And you have to have at least 5 different toppings for a salad to be correct.
I agree. Exactly. Because what is lettuce? Water. The nutrients come from the toppings. The flavor comes from the toppings. It's all about the toppings. I agree. So yeah, the salad is done. That's it. So for those of you that decided to stick around tonight until the end, I have opened up on my website a discount code for those of you who decided to come and hang out with us tonight. You can follow my Instagram and Facebook pages. They're both at Prepped by Lauren. And that will take you to my website, my online store, and you can order those. I do deliveries in Lincoln on Sundays every week, and I do deliveries in Omaha on Saturdays. And if you go to my website and order between now and I'm going to extend this until December 31st and put in the discount code CONSERVE NE with no space. So CONSERVE Nebraska, CONSERVE NE. You will get $10 off of your order of $50 or more. So that's basically a free lunch or 2 free breakfasts.
That was, what date did you say that was until?
I opened it up today, and that code will be valid until December 31st of this year.
I'm dropping that info in the chat. Thank you so much, Lauren. That's so great. And I can't speak highly enough of Lauren and what she has done for my personal life, because I enjoy cooking, I enjoy meal prepping, but I can never quite get enough for every meal throughout my day. And so I've been utilizing Lauren for a few months now, and yeah, she supplements my days and it's always delicious. So I'm so excited we were able to like bring her on and get some of her knowledge and her process. And Kelly, I appreciate you coming on as well. We had one comment come in from folks about another topic for sustainability, and that's looking at like pickling and storage of food that you purchase when it's in season and then can use throughout the off seasons too. So that was a great comment. We appreciate that. If anybody else has any more questions, we still have some time here, so feel free to reach out with those. If anybody else has some follow-up comments, again, I want to thank Lauren and thank Kelly. You both did a phenomenal job. I know I'm completely hungry now, so thank you.
It's really
good. Yay.
But I gotta say, I haven't been the hugest quinoa fan before, and I don't know why. I just quinoa, that just doesn't really, it sounds really healthy, which it is. But it is actually really good. And I think what's the best about this in particular is that it's not like sitting on a bed of quinoa that's just like straight up quinoa. And once you mix it all around, like that is way more appealing because the quinoa is sticking to everything. Mm-hmm. So that way you're not just eating mouthfuls of quinoa, because I personally don't like that. But yeah.
Absolutely.
We did have... No, sorry. Go for it, Lauren. No, you go for it.
My goal is to make food that people don't usually like, or they think, ugh, that's healthy, and make it not taste healthy. So you don't know that you're doing your body good. You just think that you're eating good. I could make every meal like that.
Yeah, and this dressing is really good too. The dressing makes everything.
Yeah, along those lines, folks are asking, will this recipe be available afterwards?
I mean, I suppose it could be.
I mean, if you want to order it from Lauren, I'm sure it'll be available that way.
Actually, I looked at that menu last week, actually, but I'll probably bring it back around here soon.
Perfect. Other folks chiming in to say that they're really excited to try quinoa now, because I guess they've had some of the same reservations.
Yeah, it's not appealing. It doesn't really look that great. And like, because I've made it before and it just, it's better when you cook it with broth. I wouldn't recommend cooking it with water as much as with broth. That really makes a difference.
Never cook it with just water. And if you do cook it with just water, season that water, and salt and pepper is never enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Kelly, you're right. Like, don't eat it like you would rice. Like, it's not something that it's something mixed into something, or you like make a patty out of it. It's not like rice.
Yeah, no, and I think the edamame is like decent protein in here, but if you are plant-based and like this is your actual meal, you might eat the broccoli has protein as well, and so does quinoa. But if you want to add like some crispy tofu or tempeh would be good. I'm more of a tofu fan than I am tempeh. I'm not a huge tempeh fan, but it exists, and I know some people like it. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Kelly, we have another question here. Will you talk a little bit about your skincare products and your business?
Yeah. So I started my business back in August. And basically my goal with it is to create more of like-mindedness and awareness around the things that are in your everyday drugstore products, which aren't necessarily bad inherently. But I have, so the products that like I'm most passionate about are 100% like my deodorant. And I know a lot of people get scared of natural deodorant, and I hate when I hear that because it just takes like you just switching. Like there's a little bit of a transition time, but I'm telling you, like once you start using it, I promise you, you will not stink. I promise. I think that it can be a trial and error, but I am someone who, you know, really needs a deodorant, and like my deodorant is, I mean, I'm biased, but yes, it's fantastic. Like it really does work. But yeah, everything in my line is palm oil free. All the ingredients are things that you can understand. So there's not, I don't think I have a product that definitely doesn't have more than like 10 ingredients in it. And I think it definitely is less than that. But yeah, I have lip balm, I have deodorant, I have a roller ball, which is great for, you know, under eye treatment. And everything is just, I just want things to be simple. I want people to be able to understand. And for, you know, when you go to my site, you can see all the ingredient call outs. Most of my things are packaged plastic free. I have a refill program that I just launched. So everything is, you know, reusable. You can reuse your components and then get a percentage off as well. So yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I'm really glad that people, you know, have the opportunity to access these kind of products that aren't exorbitantly marked up, because I know the markets and I've worked in beauty before and it's crazy. And like this brand, like my brand is not meant to be something that is super expensive and only catering to a certain demographic, if you will. So yeah, I really try to make everything super inclusive. I won't launch a product if it isn't. So yeah, I'm really proud of it and I'm happy to have it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I dropped the websites for both of your businesses in the chat too for everybody.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, perfect. I mean, I don't see any other questions coming in. So again, thank you both so much. This was so wonderful. This has been recorded and will be available for folks if you go find Conservation Nebraska on Facebook, or you can reach out to any of us, our Facebook pages, our Instagram, if you want to see this again, and we'd be happy to share the recording.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Everybody have a great night. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening.
I'm gonna go
Thank you guys so much.
Yay. Bye. Thank you.